Today we are going to practice solving literal equations. The first literal equation we are going to cover is the circumference formula. The formula C is equal to pi d gives the circumference of a circle in terms of the diameter. The circumference of a bowl is 18 inches. What is the bowl's diameter? Leave your answer in terms of pi. Whenever solving problems, always write out what you have. The first thing that we have is the actual formula. C is equal to pi d. They also told us what C is. C is equal to 18. Now we simply need to solve for d, the diameter. Substitute the 18 into the C. Notice we know that C and 18 are equal to each other. So instead of writing C, we're just going to write the 18. It's going to look something like this. 18 is equal to pi times the diameter. Now, in order to get the diameter all by itself, simply do the opposite of what's being done to it. It's being multiplied by pi. The opposite of multiplying is to divide. I'm going to divide both sides by pi. Pi's cancel out. That leaves us with d equals to 18 over pi. Now that's written backwards, so we're going to rewrite it. d is equal to 18 over pi. And don't forget your units. This is in inches, so we write inches. The next formula is the formula for an object's final velocity, given as F is equal to I minus gt, where I is the initial velocity, g is acceleration, and t is time. First, they want us to solve for I. I rewrite the equation. F is equal to I minus gt. I look at what's happening to the I. The I is being subtracted by gt. So I simply do the opposite. I add gt to both sides. So I'm going to add gt. What you do to one side, you do to the other, plus gt. These cancel out, and that leaves you with I is equal to an F plus gt. F plus gt. Now, normally we want the I in the front, or whatever variable we're solving for in the front, so I simply rewrite it backwards. I write the I first, the equal sign, then F plus gt. We always box or circle our answer. Next, they wanted us to solve for t, or time. So again, we rewrite the equation. F is equal to I minus gt. Well, we look at what's being done to our t. It's being added by an I, and it's being multiplied by negative g. When solving for variables, we need to do PEMDAS backwards. That means the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the I to both sides because I'm trying to isolate the t. When I do that, the i's cancel, and I'm left with F minus I is equal to a negative gt. Again, I ask myself, what's happening to the t? It's being multiplied by negative g. The opposite of multiplying by a negative g is to divide by a negative g. What I do to one side, I do to the other, negative g. On the right-hand side, the negatives cancel out and the g's cancel out. That leaves me with t is equal to F minus I all over negative g. And if you write your problem like this, you'll get it wrong. That negative sign cannot be in the bottom. You need to take that negative and move it either into the middle or on top. Now, the tricky part here is you have to realize that negative is being multiplied times the whole top. So we're going to distribute the negative in. That's going to give you t is equal to negative f, a positive I over the g. Here's a common formula that we see. Volume is equal to length times width times height. We're going to solve for the width. I rewrite my formula. They wanted us to solve for the width. I look at what's happening. It's being multiplied by an L. It's being multiplied times an H. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'll divide both sides by L and by an H. What I do to one side, you do to the other. L times H. The H's cancel, the L's cancel. That leaves me with volume divided by length times height is equal to our width. And we don't like it written backwards, so I'm simply going to rewrite it the way it should be. Next, we have the formula for typing speed. S is equal to W minus 10E divided by M. Words minus 10 times the errors divided by the minutes. They want us to do two different things. First, they want us to solve for the minutes. First thing we do, for part A, rewrite the formula. Now you need to get rid of your fractions. We don't like fractions. First thing we do is get rid of them. How do you get rid of the fractions? By multiplying by the denominator. So I'm going to multiply both sides by m. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. What this does is it cancels out the denominator. This leaves us with m times s is equal to w minus 10e. Now you say, what's happening to your m? It's being multiplied by the s. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. We divide both sides by the s. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. The s's cancel. That leaves us with m is equal to w minus 10e over s. For part B, they wanted us to solve for e. Again, I'm going to rewrite the formula. And we're going to start the same way. I want to get rid of my fractions. They're annoying, so I'm getting rid of them. Multiply both sides by m, which cancels out the fraction. That leaves us with ms is equal to w minus 10e. Now, look at what's happening to the e. It's being multiplied by 10, and it's being added by a w. We're going to do PEMDAS backwards. The opposite of adding w is subtracting w. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Those cancel. That leaves me with ms minus w is equal to negative 10e. Now the opposite of multiplying by 10 is dividing by 10. So I'm going to divide by a negative 10. What I do to one side, I do to all of the other side, negative 10. The negatives cancel out, the 10 cancels out, and that leaves me with an e is equal to the 10 on the bottom, ms minus w. Now don't forget the negative sign. Remember that negative is going to be either in the middle or on top. It's much better to put it on top, but he's talking to the whole thing. So I'm going to move my problem up here so I have room. That negative sign is going to distribute to the ms, and that negative sign is going to distribute to the w. At the same time, I'm going to put the e in front. E is equal to negative times a positive is a negative ms. Negative times negative is a positive w all over 10. Converting Celsius to Fahrenheit. This is a very common problem for chemistry class and on standardized tests. The formula they gave us is C for Celsius times 9/5 plus 32 is equal to F. What they want us to do is solve for Celsius. I rewrite it. I ask myself, what's happening to the C? The C is being multiplied by 9/5 and being added by 32. I need to do some opposites. So the opposite of adding 32 is to subtract 32. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Negative 32. 32's cancel out, and that gives me C times 9/5 is equal to F minus 32. Now, I need to cancel out the 9/5. Well, the opposite of multiplying by 9 is to divide by 9, and the opposite of dividing by 5 is to multiply by 5. The fastest, easiest, best way to get rid of that fraction is simply to multiply by the reciprocal. A reciprocal is taking a number, 9/5, and flipping it upside down, 5/9. That's what a reciprocal is. I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. 5 over 9 and 5 over 9. On the left-hand side, 9 divided by 9 cancels out. 5 divided by 5 cancels out. That leaves me with C is equal to, on the right hand side, I'm going to put the number in front, 5 ninths. We can leave the parenthesis there, F minus 32. One more problem with fractions. D equals 7/3, M minus 28. We simply need to solve for M. The first thing I'm going to do is rewrite my equation. Now, in order to get rid of the 7/3, I need the reciprocal. So again, we know that the reciprocal flips a fraction upside down to 3/7. I'm going to multiply both sides by the 3/7. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. 3 and 3 cancel out, 7 and 7 cancel out. That gives me 3/7. D is equal to M minus 28. The opposite of subtracting 28 is to add 28. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other, plus 28. On the right hand side, it cancels out. That gives me M is equal to 3/7 D plus 28. Or M is equal to 3/7 D plus 28.